This video contains content sponsored by John Wilson Blades and MK Blades. Opinions discussed in this video do not reflect the views of John Wilson or MK.
Hello and welcome to the skating lesson. I'm Dave Leese, and as always, it's Jonathan Byer in a very nice shirt. Where is this from? What's going on?
It's a sweater from Saks. I just got it. Thank you for
stand up and show it off, Jonathan. It was worth every penny that you sent.
Tassels and all these things.
Oh, it's so nice, and your teeth are looking very white. Oh, yes.
Good for the rink, in
Did
case
you
you
get
get a
the
little chill.
for the Olympic season?
That's right.
I need to do that. Okay, I haven't done it in like a year and a half, so you know what? It burns, but we have to give congratulations.
Now, Dave, I'm available for the Olympics next year. Like, my schedule is free.
Oh.
I feel like I should look into going, but I have a fear it will be astronomical in cost.
But what if you got to meet Kim Yuna in person?
I'd be like, hey, do you have any comp tickets to the exhibition?
I'm sure she does. You know what? Forget Yuna. Find the mother. That is clearly the key. Yeah.
Okay, good to know.
Yuna is like so not the star in that situation.
Okay.
But anyway, I went to the car show yesterday. I looked far and wide at the Jacob Javits Center. I did not find the Marin Honda. But, I made a punny Jonathan joke. Yes. Oh.
In the San Francisco Auto Show, that's where they'll have it.
Yes.
Isn't it a San Francisco place? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think it's in California for sure.
Okay.
But you said that you actually have an update because we are going to release we have one more show from the Worlds, and I didn't release it yet because La said something that shocked even both of us. So I wanted to just wait on it for a little bit because we can't have too much excitement all at once. And
be allowed to make our announcement? Her news?
Yes, we can. La had her baby, Luke Daniel, on Tuesday. It was funny because I've known that she's waiting, that she was going to have a child, but I thought it was supposed to be like the 26th was her due date. But all of a sudden I was thinking, she hasn't said anything offensive or, she hasn't asked us if the boyfriends, if any female skaters have gay eyebrows lately. That was the last thing she asked us on Monday. And then Tuesday I was like, we haven't heard from her. I called her, no answer. Apparently she was like getting wheeled into labor, So,
And my favorite was, what did she say labor was like?
It was, wait.
Most bad as a skating competition.
Wait, no. I will read the direct quote from La. Meet Luke Daniel Shy. He came out of my lady parts
at the regions,
around the time of your discussion on Tuesday p.m. Labor was expletive miserable. Comparable only to a skating competition. The nurses gave me too many drugs, which were making my heart rate, pulse, blood pressure all skyrocket, so they thought I was having panic attacks. I tried watching Sasha Cohen's YouTube videos. It didn't work. My butt is sore. So, Luke can't wait to meet his gunkles. Well, thank you, La. We can't wait to meet him. I'm nervous she's not going to be crying because she says her hormones are raging.
Oh, is that why she was getting so emotional during some of the skating this season? I was impressed. I was like, she's really touched. Okay.
I don't know. She claims that Jason Brown always touches her. So, but
I feel like just looking at the camera, I just need to clarify that the lighting is a little funny, that I don't have a black eye. No one is. But I realize it looks like I'm doing that.
So you've been spending a lot of time on airplanes lately, correct?
Correct. Yeah. I just flew from Philadelphia to Frankfurt, Germany yesterday.
Not on United, right?
No, but that's my airline of choice.
Oh.
It was on American, but now they're in trouble too. Okay.
I have a friend who's he's bipolar and he's a flight attendant, and when that flight attendant jumped out the back, we just all thought that would be him because you don't want to take him off on a bad day. I'm just saying, he is the funniest friend, but I would never.
I would not try to bring a stroller on. Okay,
yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but anyway, I wanted to ask you, because you've been watching some movies on airplanes lately. So I would like your latest, updates on popular culture. What do you...
Here's the thing. I watched the movie Moana I think that's how you say it, which is the new Disney animated feature, which had a fun soundtrack that would be cute for some junior girls, like exhibition.
Mm-hmm.
And then I finally was like, okay, it's time to bite the bullet. I'm gonna watch La La Land. I actually made it through the first two songs. The first song, I was like, oh dear.
When they're dancing on the cars in LA?
That was the first one. And I was like, this is tough. This is tough. Keep going. And then I watched the second one and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and turn this off and we'll just try again some other time. And by some other time, I mean never. And I'm not looking forward to two programs featuring that music next season.
You know, it's going to be more than two, right?
Like, made my opinions on it very clear in that Final World show.
So, yeah, we have to... Yes, because I'm also, tonight, we're going to go see Beauty and the Beast in honor of Mariah Bell and Nancy Kerrigan.
Okay.
So, I'm excited. You know, I'm getting into it. Olympic season. You know, I've been a little outspoken lately, so I just thought, let's bite the bullet and do it.
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm. So, let's talk about the World Team Trophy. First of all, I was not into this when it started. I never am. Any year, I'm like...
It's a burnout. How could it not be burnout by the time you get here?
Can you imagine if you were a U.S. skater? Obviously, you wouldn't have had a good Worlds. And then you would have had to fly on an airplane for like 17 hours or 30, however long it is, to do that long program again that you know you haven't practiced because you've been on the Stars on Ice rehearsals. Like, that's...
Understandably so, and if you were going to practice, would it be for World Team Trophy? Mm-hmm. Competition, I'm intrigued by this whole thing, and it brings up the conversation about the team event at the Olympics also.
Yes.
And to me, I don't understand, if it's in the Olympics... Why do we not recreate the Olympic experience with it? Why is it not a part of World?
See, I think it should be.
I really think that because of the like ridiculous hats and like grandstanding that happens in the Kiss and Cry, which I personally find it's vomit inducing for me. I don't think they're having fun. You know, remember when Scott Meyer used to be up there and he'd be like, oh my gosh. Like,
so Megan Duhamel told us. And Megan, don't yell at me because Scott Moyer, listen, he was on the show and I feel like he would agree. He was famous for hating that event. And you know, I respect Scott Moyer because he didn't go. Did you see Raphael's face for most of the Kiss and Cry? He didn't want to...
It's embarrassing. Like, the thing is, like, the team medal in something like gymnastics is very serious business, right? And... You know, Ashley Wagner, Gracie Gold, Jeremy Abbott, Jason Brown, they are all technically Olympic bronze medalists because of that team event. So we can't really scoff it off because it's a lot of people's, you know, highest achievement technically, even though
laugh, Jonathan, because did you ever watch those movies in the 90s on NBC, like The Perfect Body, or ABC had an episode where, like, someone was a track runner and someone was a gymnast. It lasted, like, 2 episodes. It was called, like... Without Limits, Within Limits, something like that. Not the Prefontaine movie, but it was like with Jamie Lee Presley. She was a gymnast. One of them, in either the anorexia movie or that, the girl goes, well, she's like, you're an Olympic medalist. And she's like, bronze team medal. And that's the way I consider the team event. Like...
But yeah, when they're introduced, you know, on some talk show or whatever, you know, they still are Olympic bronze medalists.
Because no one knows the difference, Jonathan. No one pays attention.
I feel like the skating community knows the difference, and the only way to legitimize it is to legitimize the event, and it's not through this, like, it's really cringy. It reminds me of, like, band kids that freshman year of like high school or something, looking extra cool at homecoming or something.
I was gonna go rougher than you. So when I first saw the team event, I was like, my initial reaction was like, you know, when like you're at the end of like the season and like you've been to a really big party and like maybe you like made out with someone or more that night before, but like you're too drunk and too hungover to remember it. You know, like you don't remember the whole experience. Like, you know that, like, maybe you made out with this guy, and, like, maybe you were really drunk, and, like, things happened, and, like... But when you wake up the next morning, like, in your friend's bed, and you're, like... Not, like, that person. Like, you know, you go home with your friend, and, like, you're, like... What did I do last night? Like, was I, like, really sloppy? Like, that's what the team event feels like, okay? And, like, of course Jason Brown loves it, you know, because he would. I mean, you saw him, like... Was he
gyrating on the kiss and cry?
What was he doing on the kiss and cry?
That was much.
Love Jason, but I feel like, okay, Jason was, like, super cute 3 years ago, and, like, we need to, like, tell him that he can tone it down. You know, like, this was...
It brings up a lot of feelings because, in some ways, you know, you have the...
What, the skaters are repressed? It brings up that feeling? Because that's...
You have adults, you know, that they're like adult athletes that have an edge of seriousness about them. But other times you realize that, like, we do follow a sport of repressed children. Like, you know, and that's what you see is you see... And again, you know, some fans will be like, well, I think it's nice that they're having fun, but it seems so...
Excuse me, did you see that Hanyu was wearing, like, a kimono and very subdued? I guess when you win the gold medal, you don't have to...
compensate.
Like, make an ass of yourself to, like, entertain the Japanese audience.
Right.
You know, it feels kind of like hazing at a fraternity. You know, like... And, like, the Russians are kind of badass. You know, what's funny is that I saw... If you follow Instagram, like, you know that there's, like, this, like... cool new move in the Stars and Ice tour where, like, one person goes like this and one person goes like that, and they do it in a row, and the U.S. skaters recreated that in the Kiss and Cry at the World Team Trophy, so we don't have to buy tickets for that anyway. But I was just saying,
like,
that...
it's like kids in the photo booth at, like, prom or something like that. God. And it's like, you know, it's actually kind of, it should be a major international competition that's setting the stage for what could be an Olympic medal.
I thought about, you know, I do look, they're in front of more people at that event than they will be at any time during the season. I think every event should be held at Yoyogi National Stadium. I like that, like the skaters, I can now map out where my Lutz would go and where this would go, because that's the only stadium that matters in skating, right? Is Yoyogi.
It's amazing. They're so knowledgeable.
Yes.
When Hugo landed the second triple, like in the second half of the program, you know that they were applauding because they understood.
Yes.
They weren't like, oh, a jump, yay, yeah. Mm-hmm. But other favorite Kiss and Cry moments also include, everyone's going nuts about Medvedev's world record. I mean, also, I thought everyone was going to get a world record here because the scores were just...
It's a joke! Why do people get so upset? The marks don't matter from one competition to the next, and no matter how many times that you explain to someone, like, it's not really a world record. Like, you can't really compare...
Right.
Canada.
The Grand Prix final to the World Team Trophy, where everyone's score was a season's best, and a lot of people didn't skate nearly as well as they could.
Just like the Sochi Olympics, you know?
Except, fortunately, this was, you know, a little lighthearted, but having to, like, everyone's showing that moment where she gets that score, and then, of course, you see Radionova next to her being like, yeah. It's
they're really close. Yeah.
Yeah, they're really friends. They're glad they're both there together. So
I like when we used to be able to tell who the Russian cliques were on Instagram, because it was like there was the whole clique with like Yulia, Radionova, and Sotnikova. But Yulia's not been active on Instagram, because when Yulia is, she will like every single post on the skating lesson except for Medvedeva. And, you know, they used to trade with each other.
I do that sometimes, too, with other people's things. I was like, I'll like every type of photo. Oh, it's that kind? No, I'm not liking that kind. To prove a point.
I love it. Like, because Miki Ando is a good liker of things. I always pay attention. You know, I get excited when Miki likes things, and Javi is very into the liking, But Sunny Lipnitskaya is my favorite. Like, forever. So she's my girl.
Now, other people that we like on Instagram are the Italians. And why are the Italians not invited?
Because I think they didn't qualify, because they're not good at all of the events. Which is strange. I think it's because Costner, because they don't have a man. You remember, like, before they had that man that was like fake Italian, like, or he was fake French?
Ivan, R word.
Yes. And before him, there was Contesti, and he either went from France to Italy or Italy to France. I don't remember. It didn't really matter. He had some really
I,
hokey kind of program.
I still would have enjoyed seeing them there.
Well,
I
he
thought
was
they
attractive. The Italian team is very good looking. You know, that's why we enjoy them.
also well-rounded enough that I thought they could have put up some points on the. When you take away Gabby and Guillaume, the French really left with too much except for the pairs.
Listen,
But
that pairs.
in there.
Did you see her? Did you see her rear in that picture on Instagram where they're waiting to go out and she's in the cat suit and then like his unfortunately was a little bit obscured by like the length of the shirt. But that could look, they need an ESPN body issue kind of spread before the Olympics.
They are incredible. They are in incredible shape. It's amazing.
How about their recent photo spread this week? I was into that. Yeah.
I love it. I really like them. And they like train in Florida, so they're always like on the beach in Miami. And
Jonathan, why are Alexa and Chris and can we be honest, Kane and Leduc, the only two pairs that the USFS cares about, why aren't they training with John Zimmerman there? I mean, let's be honest.
John Zimmerman, to me, really proved himself with this.
Let's look at John Zimmerman's stats.
Yeah, well, because there's that family tree of Moscovina. They're hovering over, leading it down.
So let's talk about let's just talk about the stats, and then we can get into solution-minded kind of situations.
Okay.
Because first of all, John Zimmerman was kind of like the prop, right, for Moscovina. Like he was the one to make Kyoko Ina more palatable.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll put this in common terms. He was the Eric Radford. So you have he was the artistic one. Except the Canadians don't know how to utilize Eric Radford the way we utilized John Zimmerman. Like he was all about we used his lines and Kyoko would like hang out by his feet. Basically, Megan and Eric should just copy their program from 2002 and do it again. And we would be like genius.
If Moscovina had her hands on Eric and Megan, they would be very different.
Yeah.
For the positive. She would have come up with a lot of solutions that could have made things very cool. And yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I digress. So we have John Zimmerman. When he last had Haven and Brandon, they were doing the Renee Roca choreography to The Lion King. That was a really cool program. And they got that medal at Skate America, and they had a relatively...
Yeah.
They made the free skate at Worlds. It was all well and good. When he had that one, Denny and Barrett, not one of your favorite teams, I know. You're like trying to recall, and then you're like, uh-oh.
It's Denny and I'm out, but okay.
So they went from Mr. Peterson when she had like the ribbons or it was a cringe. I don't know how much let that go on the ice, but America, we let anything. Free market. When that went on the ice, they then went to Mr. Peterson they went to John Zimmerman the next year, did Rhapsody in Blue, looked far better, and then he retired. So, I'm thinking, because this is third time now that John Zimmerman's had a team, because like Ingo stole Denny and Fraser, or was in cahoots with Mrs. Denny, and then they moved, and then moved again, and now they're moving back, because that's one of the rumors.
Ingo disappeared. I don't know. Yeah,
and Ingo's like in Germany, and because she got injured, and
mind you, Kane and Leduc gave us a real Wurzel and Stoyer moment, didn't they?
Stoyer, yes.
It's a very 94 moment for that.
And by the way, so Jackie Wong, who's like the new Lynn Rutherford, posted, like, safe as all heck, like, basically employed. He posted their fall, so I shared it, and then I get like, a message from, like, Kresnojan being like, you are jealous of Kane and Leduc, and I was like, I shared something that Jackie Wong did. Like, that's as safe as, like, Schoolhouse Rock. Like, what am I... I just, like, deleted it and sent him, like, a message being like, everyone falls down sometimes, and, like, you have to laugh at yourself, and, like...
Hashtag get up. Yeah.
Hashtag get up. Yes. So, there was no offense. Like, Mandy and Ingo, that's how we met them. Like, they need to own their moment. This is what people are going to remember them for, okay? Is that fall.
And Tim's fall, though, that was much harsher than Ingo's was in 94. He, like, landed flat on his torso and, like, clearly, like, couldn't breathe for a second. And I was like, oof.
I really wish that Tim had a partner that wasn't 6'4". Like, I really... Because
Yeah, that's a missed opportunity. He's
I
just
have gotten in arguments with Bruno Marcotte about the fact that Tim was not teamed up with Marissa, because I debate that forever. Because
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. We'll end it there. And
Yeah. Because even in Boston, like I remember being like, "Holy cow!" Like just
yeah,
even with the other partner, he was just always so elegant. It's not like he's some undiscovered thing. He was always that good. I don't understand.
yeah. So why did we allow Tim LeDuc after Boston? They wanted to split with the partner and the coach and all that. Why did we allow him to go on a cruise ship and Ashley to pretend to do singles for 2 more years? I mean, no offense, very talented skater, wasn't going to make it in singles. So they waited 2 whole years and then we put them together? Like, what? That's called a missed opportunity as well. When that happened. So now they're like in a race against time to make something happen for next year when we only have 1 spot. Probably not going to happen unless, this is just like the state of U.S. figure skating. You have to be like, that's a smart decision.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, of course, it's what we do every time, like, someone new shows up. We just put all our apples in their cart. We're like, they're the answer. But it's, even still, the partnership's not really made in heaven. It's just nice to see Tim again.
Yeah, because, like, the twist is still level 1, although it is a triple. And then they're not really rotating those side-by-side triple loops, but they do them, so, because it's been a couple of times that they've been under-rotated, so. But I think this is what I would do, John Zimmerman. I would send them to John Zimmerman and send Alexa and Chris there, too, because they are, like...
We'll never leave Delilah.
No. Because Delilah, we can put her in a camp with Tom Z and Corey Aid.
Right.
Honey.
Yeah. There are limitations, yeah.
Very active on the social media. So we have to put them there. Once again, they train at the U.S. Training Center where we haven't produced a world or Olympic medalist. So these are things in the U.S. that we just need to mention,
Yeah, yeah, that's true. It's a far cry from when Carlo Fassi was there.
Yeah. So I would send them to John Zimmerman to oversee our program, because look at what he's done with the French. These 2 people with John Kerr. Because remember when John Kerr was on, he said that they even struggled to do their crossovers in time. I've noticed improvement in the way that they match. And
absolutely.
They've really improved throughout the season. So I think we send Alexa and Chris there. And here's why. It's about the styling. It's about the little details. I posted a video of Kyoko and John today. Moskvina made Kyoko look far prettier than she ever looked with Peter Burrows, especially if we remember the horror of her and Jason skating together and when she was the flower. Moskvina knew to make John Zimmerman the flower. And that was the point, because she would make Tim LeDuc the flower, and she would also do something about Alexa and Chris and make them have that extra refined look. They have a very American look in pair skating, which is not a compliment. That's a very... I went to the car show.
It's always been there, and I guess that's the frustrating part.
So I went to the car show yesterday. Alexa and Chris as a pair are very they're like a Chevy Tahoe, and we want to look more like a Lamborghini. It's just a different level of look when you go to Moskvina. So, Mike, did I do that well? I did that well, right? That was a good analogy. Yes. Mm-hmm. He's a car person. I'm not. I went to the car show.
But Chevy Tahoes can still be expensive, just saying.
Yes, but I'm just saying. Look, I went to the car show because we had a deal. I said, he said, do you want to go to the car show? I said, do I want to go or will I go?
Okay.
Will you go to the car show? And I said, will you get me Hello Dolly tickets with Bette Midler if I go? Deal. This is how wheeling and dealing of international politics works. This is how Tarasova got some of those medals, honey.
You're the DDA of relationships. Okay.
Yes. This is how international things work. this is why Marie France is such a genius, you know? Why, yes, I will coach the third-ranked Spanish ice dance team. Yes. When you have one spot for the Olympics.
Exactly.
Yes. So anyway, I think that they need to train with Moskvina at the Ubilny Sports Palace. And if they have any issues with their jumps, Mr. Mishin is just a few meters across the boards away. And we could send them there for the next year until February. And they could come back and John Zimmerman could be like the American overseer. And then we could bring in Delilah because, you know what? We want to share the knowledge to pay it forward. So we could bring in Delilah to see so she can keep her paycheck and she can sit in the kiss and cry with Moskvina.
Well, and like Law pointed out, she taught him a good twist, and she obviously provides some sort of emotional support and strength for them, but why limit yourself to the same information you've always been receiving?
Yeah, and Moskvina could talk about the program selections and the partnering and things, you know, that could improve moving forward.
Yeah. I agree.
And then she could teach them, like, the tricks because she's very, very intelligent, has a lot of experience, knows about the finer details, the things that get you from a +1 to a +2, beyond what it... Because there are, like, the written rules of skating and the unwritten rules of skating, Jonathan. And the Moskvina way of landing with the legs up and matching, I mean, that's what it's all about. So we need to do something. And then we could, like, pay this knowledge forward. And John Zimmerman could work with Moskvina again. He could bring the French team. You know, we could share that knowledge. Because Kavaguti and Smirnov are probably not going to go to the Olympics. But the 4 teams could kind of train together and make each other stronger with competition and smartness and attractive people like Ina and Zimmerman and Fontana. They could all be sponsored by Charisma Sport. We could do Instagram videos selling Sylvia's very chic clothing. They could wear their John Wilson blades. And we could make this like a moment. You know, people have limitations. You need to think outside of the box and make partnerships and move. And then we could use the USOC funding. I would cut all of the Senior B funding and be like, I'll take a funding for this team to send them to St. Petersburg for 4 months. Anyway, rant over. But how did you feel about the World Team Trophy, Jonathan?
I mean, it's, again, like, I just wish it was taken with more seriousness. It's almost like an Ice Wars kind of vibe, or USA versus the world.
Excuse me. The first few Ice Wars... Like, before Nancy got pregnant and came back, before they let the world team actually win, the first few Ice Wars were, like, kind of entertaining events. You know, like, I really enjoyed them. Unfortunately, Nancy and Oksana didn't really take them as seriously, but Christy did, and that's why she was making all of the money. She seized the opportunity. You know, she made the most of it. I enjoyed them.
It's interesting, and I respected the people that opted out. And to me, it was very clear who opted out and why and how I view them as serious artists. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
there is pressure because the ISU wants the top people to go. So you have to have some cachet behind you.
To say, absolutely not. The Olympics are coming. I am the French dance team. Tessa and Scott, some of the top pairs.
The Shibutanis didn't go. They've been working with every top person. Lambiel, they were just working with one of the So You Think You Can Dance people, Alex Wong.
But to me, that's such a statement about their commitment and their seriousness.
Yes.
Versus
whatever. This is one of the biggest funding opportunities these skaters have, because if you are not a top-ranked skater, and if you are not a top-ranked skater and you're Kanan LeDuc, this is a huge funding opportunity for you because you probably aren't going to get the big Grand Prix prize money, but you could get the World Team Trophy prize money. So I think throughout the year we should talk more about how the funding works, because if you win a medal on the Grand Prix, you not only get money from the Grand Prix prize money, you also get money from the USOC that then matches that. They don't match it, but they give you like an extra $10,000. You know, so if you win and you get $18,000, someone like Ashley, if she wins Skate America, she gets the $18,000. then she also gets money from the USOC. And that skate America becomes very valuable. And it's very important why they win. So the World Team Trophy is one of like the big funding opportunities for them.
Okay.
But that being said, I think that if you are a skater, and because the Worlds are such a high pressure event that you want to come down, you want to take a nap for 3 weeks, you want to be on an island with a drink, with a umbrella, and then you want to move forward and get ready for the next season of events, I would not want to do my long program again with quadruple jumps if I haven't practiced it, because to me, like, I would rather use that time in April to rest my body and come down, just knowing my personality, that even though you're in front of 30,000 people, 40,000 people, and a big Japanese viewing audience, I would be exhausted, and I would not think that this was going to be showing me at my best, and I'd be afraid I was going to get hurt. So I think, why don't we do, like, you can let the older skaters do the short program, the older ones do the free, and maybe them do some sort of like exhibition program competition where you could...
Or even at the Olympics when they did it, like have the option to play out your strategy. Because again, when it was that first year, you could see how different people were trying different strategies. We decided to put Jeremy in the short and Jason in the long. And did Ashley end up doing the short, or was Gracie?
Ashley did the short and Gracie did the long.
Hey, so there's like...
Which, let's be honest about that one. How many times has Ashley done a good long versus Gracie doing a good long? And how many times has Ashley screwed the pooch in the short at Worlds? And then again, USFS. What were we thinking? You know.
But it's a learning curve. It's a learning curve because how does one develop that strategy? We don't know, until you do it, kind of why certain things work or why not. Mm-hmm. So why not be able to simulate the exact same thing? I don't really understand, and I really wish it was a part of the World Championships or at the same.
Why did we put Jeremy in the team event?
Because he was national champ. Because he was so.
Do you remember that we had to count him down to remind him to start his program on time at the nationals? Like
that was a gripping moment. I was like, "This is not the way you want to lose points." We disqualified.
And if we knew that we were going to get first place points from Marilyn Charlie won that medal for the U.S.
Yeah. Well, it was actually Marissa and Simon that helped qualify us after Jeremy had such issues in the short. So who'd have thought that they were...
That's also amazing. Yeah, I hope you understand. That was...
And they have an Olympic bronze medal. Again, more reason to take this seriously. So, although I do feel like I don't understand why they couldn't have also included Italy. Mm. And if they have to whittle it down so that it's if Shoma just did the short and Hanyu did the long, or however they chose it. But we didn't need to see, even though they're like sentimental favorites in a way, we didn't need to see both French female figure skaters do a short and a long.
But I was so glad that we did. Also, speaking of figure skaters, have you been watching Instagram this week with like our friend Megan Duhamel?
We've been taking a trip down memory lane.
Not just that. Have you noticed, because Alexei Krasnozhan is also the person who pointed out to me that when a skater changes their hair, it's like a psychological change. And then I thought about how if I'm having a fat day, I usually like to get a haircut, my eyebrows done, or I'm feeling a little bit moody or anything, I usually will change it and it'll get me in a better mood. Well,
okay.
I start noticing like every time Ashley and Adam change their hair, or every time Megan cuts her hair, like we're 7th at Worlds and then we chop the rest off and then we start training manically on Instagram. Like, I'm all in watching this.
Yeah, she's full blown like regaining like single status. It feels like she's just like, and I'm gonna flip over here, and she was doing the double axel triple Salchow combo, and
that she has a program worked out, right? Like, she clearly knows how she would beat Elaine Chartrand. Like, that's not even a question. You know that she absolutely knows that, like, she'd have to come from behind in the short, but then she would come ahead in the long. Like, I have to tell you, I'm all in to Megan Duhamel making a singles run. I think it could be one of the most entertaining things that has ever happened in Canadian skating.
That would be a story.
Like, could you imagine the intensity? I mean, just...
the intensity that's only tunnel vision to herself. I don't know if like having a partner like Eric, who seems a little more go with the flow, a little more lax, especially now, or tired perhaps, like if her having that helps offset some of that, or if
Makes
left
it
her
worse.
imagination that she would just be like a rocket. Yeah.
Well, she was clearly dragging him to the four continents and to the senior beasts everywhere.
But for a while, they were listed on World Team Trophy. And
That
I
was
like,
the funniest thing ever, is when
I
he
like,
is not hitting the sit spin positions, and she's
Yeah.
like, we'll see you at the World Team Trophy. And I'm like, let's wait. And then he's like, well, we have to visit the doctor. And then the doctor, of course, says, oh, you're not going to the World Team Trophy.
I like it. I get her.
You gotta love her, you know, like you gotta support it. She's an athlete. She's in it. She's in it to win it. She already has told me like what she wants to do after the Olympics. She wants to open like a shelter for animals, and she wants to do nutrition, and she wants to study yoga in India. And I think she's gonna do all of it, Jonathan. And I think you know what? That's
I know she is. Yeah.
yeah. And she
Step all over every other yoga studio on her way to the top.
listen. She doesn't play like that. Okay, but I have to say that for the men, what we learned here is that Shoma and Hanyu are clearly kind of really solidifying themselves as 1 and 2, which I think is really good for keeping the money in Japan, because if we don't have this World Team Trophy in Japan, there is no money in skating. You know, I mean, the Russians are very insular, but they don't really put other skaters in their shows unless they really like you, like a Sandu or a Johnny Weir or someone like that. It's very like all Russia cast. So, and if Yuna's not going to do shows in Korea, we need to keep the money in Japan so that we can have a sport. So I think that it's very
Now,
good.
I'm intrigued, Dave, as you are more connected into the Japanese fandom than I am. There was a lot of backlash because you said you didn't like Hanyu's costumes, but there was so much love, conversely, for Shoma.
Right. So that was a bad move. That we were honest there.
Okay, yeah, okay, just hold it in. No, but what I'm saying is, on an emotional level or just a pure aesthetic level, I enjoy Shoma a little bit more than Hanyu. Although
So the
obviously,
dislikes on our YouTube video from the world's men show me that that's not something that you should keep saying, Jonathan. You know,
I know, but what I'm intrigued by is, in Japan, is Shoma just like
he's a star on the rise. Listen.
Is it?
It has to look at the end of that competition. There were 3 skaters. And I was betting that NBC was there with a camera or will buy, because I was like, we are going to see this in the fluff piece. It was Shoma Uno, Hanyu, Medvedeva. And I thought, those are the 3 skaters in the world right now for singles that people really are. These are the stars of the sport right now. The 3 of them are. They were.
I was just curious if Shoma kind of was what in Japan. What those kinds of fans...
I think he's growing. I mean, I hashtag things. You see the hashtag numbers rise. Shoma Uno is becoming a thing. He's not at Hanyu level, but he's on the rise. The same way Marin Honda is on the rise. Did you notice that Japan had Marin Honda, their new little princess, hand Kanako Murakami the flowers when she was retiring? That was very symbolic and planned out. I was like, the Japanese are so smart. And they had their top ladies from the junior worlds perform in the spotlight, getting that experience in front of the World Team Trophy. I thought Japan is on it. They have figured out how to make stars, and they have...
You brought up a very interesting point on Twitter, which talked about the Olympic berths and things like that. About maybe not just being solely based on one world's result, and instead perhaps some world ranking and things like that. And I thought the World Team Trophy, if anything, drove home your point, because those Japanese girls really delivered in a major way.
Yeah, I thought it showed a lot about the culture of skating in Japan and Russia. Is that if you looked, how did Radianova respond to not making the world team? She was obviously not happy. She was obviously, but she did not give up. You know, the moment that Pogo Relaya fell at the Worlds and she found out that she was going here, she seized this opportunity and made the most of it.
Yeah.
Wakaba Higuchi did very poorly at the World Championships, to the point that maybe the Japanese Federation would ignore her until the end of time because of what she cost them. However, she showed up here with a triple axel in the practice sessions and with 2 triplets, triple toes.
Right.
That is the level of competition that we are fighting against. And then you have the American ladies. Oh, you had the Canadian ladies and Gabby Daleman, once again, not the most artistic skater. She kind of solidified her spot as a world contender. They didn't have Osmond here.
Yes, it could have proved that the medal was a fluke, right?
Yeah,
but instead it proved that it was not.
It was absolutely legitimate. And it proved that Ashley in 7th at Worlds is her ranking. Because she was 6th here without a Costner, without an Osmond, without, so you got to think, well, maybe Costner wouldn't have as good of a day.
A self-proclaimed peaking performance. Right? Ashley said, like, this was, like, her peak performance on Twitter, didn't she?
Moving on.
Okay. If your peak performance is indeed 6th at the World Team Trophy...
we've got a problem.
Yeah. So...
And then unfortunately for Karen hasn't been doing the Stars on Ice rehearsals. She's been training, figuring out next season. I'm actually really concerned for Karen Chen, more so than I am for Ashley. Look, Ashley, medal or not, you know that Ashley Wagner is going to will herself to at least medal on the Grand Prix next year so that she's in the conversation when all of the Olympic media goes for her, so that she will get a lot of media attention and ride that wave. Even if she doesn't have the medal performance at the Kiss and Cry, she'll find a way to have another meme of herself. She will be just fine. Okay? She will get attention at the Olympics, like Johnny with the Crown of Roses, one way or the other.
Exactly.
Karen Chen I'm worried about. Okay? Yeah. Because Karen Chen, national champion at 4 continents, came back up for Worlds. If anything, Worlds should give confidence. She wasn't ready to back it up, Jonathan. Again, it's another. This is a Jeremy. This is a Adam Rapon of old. From 5-6 years ago. This is the kind of one where they can't back up the performance again and again and again.
That's what I'm saying with Gabby Daleman.
She did it.
She backed it up, and Karen, it's always this. So
but this is now bad because this is she was setting herself up as a contender for next season, and I'm already thinking that 4th was a fluke, because if I'm in the mind of a judge, I look at how stiff the competition is for next season, and you think of the Japanese with Higuchi, with Honda, with Mihara. You just think with Satoko, perhaps, if she's healthy, being back, that there's not a lot of spots at the top. So
well, and even do you remember during her Elaine Zayak interview, she was like, oh yeah, Roz Sumners would win if I made a mistake.
Yeah. She's like, I was always the champion.
If I delivered, I was fine, and if I didn't, then someone else won. And that was how Karen won that national championships. You know what I mean? Like, she didn't.
The thing about Ashley, and I was trying to explain this, and it wasn't supposed to be an attack on her as much as we are not going for every point. All of our ladies, when you watch Lipnitskaya do that program at the Olympic Games, that footwork sequence, she was getting her points where she could get them. So if Ashley Wagner and Karen Chen cannot get their points on the combos because they're not getting them, we need to be milking every single point out of every component, out of every spin, out of every step sequence. There needs to be intensity. They need to be going for it. And the USFS needs to have people in there. Look, there are people that don't have funding. They're national champions that don't have proper funding for proper choreographer. If you're considering Misha Gee, that's not someone that I would look at as a choreographer.
Program, yeah.
He's so new. He doesn't know the way of maximizing a talent with a performance.
Sure, he will, but why would you risk it on your Olympic program?
He's getting there, but you don't want to be the experiment. You want to take someone who knows how to do it. We need to maximize Karen Chen, give her confidence. she clearly needs to have another coach in the equation that's giving her the confidence so that she can go out there and deliver at the World Team Trophy. Because clearly there's something in her training environment and in her preparation that is missing, that is lacking, that is,
right.
And
well, and who's the sports psychologist? Sylvie,
yeah. There was Nancy's. There's Caroline Silby. There was the woman who worked with Nancy.
She was the one that said, if you keep doing the same thing, you're going to get the same result. And
Sasha Cohen said that in that fluff piece at the Olympics. If you do what you've always done, you get what you've always gotten. And that's how she used to explain all of her coaching changes. And I was like, you good, Sasha. Good for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, that was not a good example of that statement, but you know what I mean. Like, yes. Obviously something can be helped with Karen. Like, yes. Something with Ashley, who, even though we, like, razz on her, like, obviously, like, she's a fun girl. Like, yes. I kind of like her spunk and things like that. She's going to do what she's going to do. She wasn't even, like, brought up in IJS, really, and she probably had to, like, figure out these spins with an organization that didn't even know how to teach IJS properly or switch to the system.
Even though our judges helped develop it.
I know, it doesn't make a lick of sense, but... But Karen has those spin points. She has all these things at her disposal, so maybe someone can help her.
But you know what I thought? That Paulina, who ticks those other girls off, she's been spinning on Instagram. Like, she came back from her vacation, and, maybe she's just doing Christie's show, but she's getting in gear.
I hope she just swoops on in and just does the whole thing.
I hope she just takes them all off and gets them training and just... You know what I love about Paulina is that she does not give a F, honey, okay? Yeah, she is a competitor. Look, she was mad when she lost those nationals. She wasn't going to say she was happy with silver. And she was so... I remember standing there in... And it wasn't anything that she said as much as the tone and her body language when she won the short in St. Paul. That she was standing there, chest was up, eyes were out, and she was like, yeah, I won it. Mm-hmm.
Even in Boston, it was like, how does it feel? And you could tell her inner monologue was like, it feels right.
Yeah.
I knew I was going to go to the Olympics, even though I was like, Paulina, who?
Listen, I hope she comes back. If anyone...
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Good for her. So say she's, like, joined a sorority at school and, like, she needed to heal that bone. And as we see with, like, Karen, those feet are, like, hard to heal. If she's, like, having fun on the beach, doing jack, being like, and she comes back for the...
Bring back a life experience that
Paulina, we desperately need you. Because your best quality... is that the other girls hate you, and you don't really seem to like them. And that is what skating needs. We need to stop pretending that we're all friends in the kiss and cry.
Yeah.
I mean, because Nathan Chen is the one who gets, like, where skating is going. He's going to med school, honey. Like, he is going to go...
Well, I feel like...
And not in a Debbie Thomas way. Like, he's going to med school. Like, we'll have a real doctor, like Tenley Albright, that we don't have to be like... Because Elaine Zayak also said in that interview, like, I want Debbie Thomas to be my doctor. And I was like, oh, you did not see the interview we did with her. I was thinking...
Well, even when they did the Instagram thing of everyone from Team USA doing the high kick, you see Nathan, like, goes like that. And there were comments about it because, Tim LeDukes is, like, up here like a rocket or something. And then someone commented, and Nathan responded on Twitter, and he was like, I'm not going to pull a hamstring over an Instagram kick.
And I was like... He is the one person who gets it. But at the same time, Tim LeDuc gets it because, honey... Unless Alexa is, like, not healthy... He's going to the Olympics. He's not going to the Olympics. So he needs to high kick and be a rocket for those Japanese fans and listen. This is what every American skater needs to do.
Yeah.
You get a Japanese tutor like Jason Brown and you befriend Marin Honda now. You can't befriend Hanyu or Uno because they're too famous. It looks like you're ass kissing. You need to send Marin Honda, like, pink or red things from Lululemon. You need to, like, find out what kind of, like, kosei, the things that she likes.
Ground level, yeah.
You need to get in on the ground level. You need to pick the right talent.
But my question, Dave, is she is so the right talent, and that made me sad because I was like, which of these girls we just saw are going to get the boot?
And do you know what my inner Medvedeva says?
Doesn't
Who
matter.
cares? You know, like, do you think Medvedeva cares which girl is not going? How hard do you think she and Zagitova are pushing each other every day? She's now doing the Sal with 2 arms, being like...
Well, she fell on it in the exhibition.
I think that she needs a program with Egyptian arms, because if the programs are going to be over... The arms are going to be over the head all the time, just accentuate it, you know?
Yeah.
How about her in that...
Did you jokingly pick up the phone to her in the exhibition? Jack, I may be getting that.
How about the thing with her, Tatler Russia, whatever it was, when she was like owning herself in that photo shoot, and I was like, you've earned it, honey. And they had like all the gold medals, and I was like, I don't think all the medals look like that, but they had like 20 world championship gold medals around her, made as a mock-up with like the phones around. I mean. And they found a good hairstyle for her, other than that hideous crown.
Yeah, she's really nice, I thought, yeah.
Yeah. She's going to be okay, you know.
Adele's hello during the photo shoot. I just called and said, I love you. Yeah, okay.
Oh, my goodness. I'm ready for her. And there are the people that try to say, like, she doesn't have personality. And I think, she has personality.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
She has loads of it. And that's just a packaging issue. She's a great competitor. But again, this world record, like, is this the best performance even Medvedeva has done?
Who cares? It was pretty darn good. It was pretty darn good. Okay, it was.
Yeah. And now here's the question as we talk about, like, the crumbling UFS.
Let's be honest. Wait a second. You know, people like Connor Reardon are going to, like, be like, is that better than Yuna? Yuna didn't do a triple loop, and she did 3 to 4 clean longs in her entire career. Medvedeva's done how many clean longs?
It's very different. It's amazing.
When you do that many clean longs, you earn those scores. That's why the judges keep going up and up and up. That's called momentum, reputation. Yeah. You earn that.
She really has. You know, whether or not I care for the choreography. I mean, she's delivered every time. She's worthy of these marks, no question. But now... that's a situation. So obviously they have such a star in her. Mm-hmm. Now, the USFS is like obviously maybe not doing so great at its job right now. It needs to reassess what's happening. But are we accrediting her success to the Russian Federation or merely to the success of her coach, who now has 2 outstanding?
Well, they have both. I mean, okay, we bring in Mitch Moyer to consult. They bring in Tarasova.
Because I just wonder, because, you know, those Russian men were a disaster at the World Team.
But they at least are trying with the Russian men to where, you know, they moved Pitkaev to Radionova's coach. I mean, they're moving them to a top coach. They're not moving them to the Canes in Texas. You know, like, they're moving them. They're making chess moves. You know, the Russians, are you watching? Like... Nikita and Victoria are now going to Julin to train against Bobrova every day to try to get a dance team that can compete with these other teams. I mean, they are really... And we still have, like, our pairs. Like, we got Mr. Peterson crying and Delilah breaking up the novice teams to make 2 new teams. And, like, you know, we have Corey Aid, who hasn't taught a double axel. You know, I think that we need to, like... We have Tom Z, who thinks that a triple axel is going to get Tessa Hong to the Olympics after she pumped every jump in that long program, Jonathan. Like, that's the state of U.S. skating. You know, we clearly need leadership to smack everyone into gear. This is.
Well, there's again, it's a pedigree of coaching, and you see all of these high-level successful coaches that everyone flocks to there. And it just doesn't seem to be the case in the United States.
We don't have the technical knowledge. We don't have the coaches with it.
If you go back to, like, there was that second when you thought, as a fan, Richard Callahan knew everything because of Todd and because of Tara. And then even, like, Jenny goes and she's like, well, he didn't actually know. Fortunately, I had the technique from the Scott folds. But then, okay, let's go back and look at the Scott folds.
But then he knew how to package her. Like, he could add this, like, to the equation.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what's Corey giving? She's giving, like, Mariah Bell, Nancy Kerrigan knockoffs, and then, like, holding Jason back? Like, what's going on here? You know, like, this is... Yeah.
And it takes a gutsy leader in an organization to just full blown pull someone.
How many times have we told Tom that your skaters need to focus on components? I don't know, maybe since 2007. Like we haven't gotten the memo yet. Like, well, maybe you give the memo to someone else, or you use Tom as like a national jump specialist. You employ him to do that, to make moves. Clearly,
Right.
if Mitch hasn't delivered. Look, the ice dance coaches succeeded on their own. Marina and Igor knew what to do.
They were gonna turn whatever country they picked into a powerhouse.
Yes.
If Marina randomly decided to move, to Milan, all of a sudden all the Italian ice dancers would be blowing us away.
Yes.
It's where the training is.
Yes.
And
And the people who wheel and deal, they're going to see Hello Dolly because they went to the car show, honey. They're getting what they want. That's what you do. You're not waiting for Mitch Moyer to give you tickets to the car show and then, maybe he'll give you an assignment to Hello Dolly. That's not how we play this game.
Yeah.
It's a dirty sport, but
And I understand also, like, with a lot of these skaters that go to something like World Team Trophy and things like that, I feel a part of me feels sad because I know they're stuck. No, they shouldn't be going on Stars on Ice because they should get ready for the Olympics. But with the lack of, like, exposure and financial opportunities for them, and it's a pickle for them because I understand, like, it's easy. I always found with my career. Yeah.
A world champion skater from the 90s has agreed to do an interview with us where we're going to talk about these issues in skating and the funding. And so, because why are we going on Stars right now when clearly Worlds should have been a crisis moment where we need to move forward? We need to take the fact that that was not a good result at Worlds. As Christine said, one measly bronze, and then all of the people cried on our Facebook being like, don't say that, it was a good world. Well, one bronze.
Right.
That showed us where we are.
Right.
We need to move forward. There was help to get us 3 spots in the ladies. Bogorelaya, Higuchi, the fact that Sotoka was injured. I mean, there was a lot of things that came into play there. Jonathan, I'm very worried about you having this diet soda all the time.
It's crazy, bro.
They talk about all of the cancer risks, all the time. I read those articles,
I know. I'm trying to, like, hide the label so you can't tell. But I do think, even in my singing career, I have been told by certain managers, like, don't take this job. This job is just about the money. It's not going to lead to something else. It's better to wait and then do this other thing. But I was like, you wait.
Yeah.
You're going to give me the money in the meantime? You know what I mean? I understand the dilemma of faced with some income from Stars on Ice or faced with the exposure of World Team Trophy and the kind of money involved there. It is hard. Yeah, sure, it's easy on the outside to be like, you should be at home. You should be spending more money on more choreographers and more, specialists and things like that. And then, but they're in such a pickle that they're like, yeah, but I need the money.
I'm going to ask you about this too, because this moves into the next kind of topic that I want to discuss is about the agent situation. Because I talked to our friend Lynn Plage, whom we both really like, actually, socially.
Lovely woman. Yeah.
Yeah. And she was like, well, do you know how agents and publicists work? And I was like, yes. But when I was talking about what happens when everyone in skating has the same agents. What happens is there's a situation where it doesn't look like the agent is trying to map out the career of each person. So when Michelle Kwan had Shep Goldberg, that was like a Svengali situation where he chose her and then they like mapped out her career and like plotted and made decisions. It seems now as though the agents are pushing you to Stars on Ice and pushing you to shows here, and somehow the agent is almost working against you. I talked to Nastia Liukin about this before she came back in 2012. Her agent wasn't actually sure if she could come back and do it, so he was encouraging her to make the short-term money rather than the long-term money that would come with making, And then there's situations where, do you need to be going to Japan to do the shows? Or are you going to be like Tessa and Scott and turn down some of the Stars on Ice shows, turn down the World Team Trophy, and then really plot on winning an Olympic gold medal because winning a second Olympic gold medal is going to be worth far more for the rest of your per show, because not every skater gets paid the same amount of money per show, right? Like Tessa and Scott are not making the same money as Duhamel and Radford. Like Tessa and Scott are making more.
Yeah, because they have that track record already, they have the luxury of comfortably being able to say no.
Yes.
They do have a lot of show money. They do have a lot of things, and I'm sure they've saved and invested or done whatever they need to along the way. So when you see someone else like Ashley or whomever, they don't have that kind of...
Or does Ashley make the money now because she's not going to medal at the Olympics?
Right. Well, unless the team.
Yeah.
But
yeah. I mean, I think that you have to kind of look at it that way. I mean, but I think you need to make strategic decisions, in which...
In a funny way, like I always talk about the parallels between the classical music realm and the skating realm, because in many ways in the United States, there is this big argument that opera is dying. And in Europe, it's still booming because it's just more part of the culture. It's not a dissimilar situation to skating right now, or it has been since Sasha Cohen, quite frankly, that like the popularity of skating is dying in a way in the United States, whereas in a place like Japan, it's booming. So these managers are more like agents. They're not really managing careers for the skaters like they were with
No, because they're trying to make money off of the sport too, so they're getting the last dollars for themselves.
They're booking agents. They're just trying to book this without any sort of like long-term art. In the same way a coach that would plop in and give you a couple of pointers on how to fix your triple toe or something like that isn't the same as someone who's going to see you through technically, and see the arc of your skating. So then it becomes hard to push these people. But again, like, why isn't Adam, who's like inexplicably the only out athlete I can really think of at a top level in the United States, why isn't he the marshal of every gay pride parade? Why isn't he like on Drag Race? Why isn't he?
I know. And I was talking to Lynn Plage and she was saying, we got Adam on the Today Show. Isn't that great? And I texted that to you and you said, the Today Show is old news. No one cares about that. And like, while I would still put him on the Today Show, have him judging on Drag Race. Get him a show on Logo. Have him and Ashley on a show on Logo. Like, we need to create, skating, there's this culture within the U.S. where we keep whining that the sport is not as popular as it once was. Well, I don't know. Ice Network, where all the performances are behind a wall. No one new is ever going to, or very few new fans are going to ever discover someone, but on YouTube you can search and find things and people can discover. And when
you have to know what you're looking for if you're doing that.
And then people are like, well, the music rights. It's like, well, the ISU has all of the junior Grand Prix there and they use the same music that the seniors are using. So
why can we stream it free in Europe and in Canada and everywhere else? And
so on the ISU, they're starting to they've been putting all the junior Grand Prix things for the last couple of years. Those videos are getting, millions of views now. And those are not the stars of skating. Those are, besides a Marin Honda or a Russian junior lady, most of them are just picking up a couple of views here and there, a couple thousand from the diehards.
Right.
When you get the Marin Honda that gets 250,000 for, because people are like, oh, she's special. Or, oh, Zagitova's special. That's how you start to build a new audience. And the thing that USA Gymnastics did is that they not only put all of their current programs on there, they partnered with NBC and their old footage that they own, or that they obviously still work with NBC, so NBC's willing to give it to them, is that they put all of their past performances on the internet. So instead of like complaining that why did someone upload a beam routine of Shannon Miller, they uploaded the beam routine of Shannon Miller from 1994, so that they could get views. And that when people were searching for Shannon Miller, then they clicked on Simone Biles.
Yeah.
So why isn't the USFS doesn't do that. They don't put Michelle. They complain that we haven't had any stars since Michelle Kwan and Sasha. Well, why isn't any of Michelle Kwan or Sasha's performances on the internet? And how about, we've all wondered if that Testgate with Michelle Kwan actually happened from the Olympics in 2006. Surely the USF has that. Put that on YouTube so we can all watch it. And then we could all...
get more views than anything. Yeah.
Everyone could debate how she would have finished. Could she have beaten Arakawa? No, she would have been in third. No, she used the wrong edge. Anytime one of the Ubers goes to town and starts yelling, that's another view every single time. You want that. You know, like, you want this. Like, hello, let's get strategic here. Let's get smart. You know, let's...
I feel like the people behind the closed doors at USFS maybe seem like this former CEO of Blockbuster.
Yes.
Or like a travel
agent. You're waiting it out. You're killing your money until it dies. Rather than...
Pivot.
Netflix pivoted, right? Like, they pivoted to streaming. That's what skating hasn't done. They have not pivoted. They've complained, they've whined, they've said, you know, media has changed, they've made excuses, but they haven't.
Change with it.
Yeah.
Stop having the Today Show as your holy grail and get people on. Yeah. Again, to have like Adam judge on Drag Race or something like that. I know it seems neat.
They need to determine what is their brand. Like, is their brand to be conservative and lame and like, is that your brand, or is your brand just being like skating? We have winners. We have like
everything. Because if you go to a skating competition, which we have, it is a hodgepodge of people. Sure, there are the ladies with their like cat hoodies, like puffy paint signs, and
as Michael Shanley's favorite people, the flag people.
Yeah, they have the flag people.
And but why is the USFS doing like a video? They have like another Adam Rippon type who does the videos for the USFS and the photos. Why isn't he doing a feature on the flag people who have paid to go to every competition since the beginning of time?
Yeah.
What's their deal? Like, haven't you ever seen them and been like...
And then people will watch for them during the skating. Yeah,
or like Dell, who takes photos.
There are young people, and there are old people, and there are the opera gays, and then there are just like full-blown dancers, and then there are, you know, there's like a whole wide array of things. Get people on, you know, Dancing with the Stars is lovely, but again, no one is
that's
perfect.
dying too. That's in season 24, and we're trying to make the money off of it until that ends. And then what are we going to do? Where are Marilyn and Charlie going to go after they win the Olympics when we don't have Dancing with the Stars?
Instead of
proactive. Yeah.
Someone proactive. I mean,
oh my goodness. I just thought of an athlete in another sport that we could put on that. Yeah. I was... it's interesting because they're not being... Okay, so you and I both looked at a software that was developed by a skating parent in Colorado, and he first went to Corey Ade and to Eddie Shipstead to bring it to other people. He did it as a fun activity for his daughter. I don't know if you've used Ice Network and you try to find like Alex Johnson's performance because you remember like, oh yeah, he did like, I wonder how he did at sectionals. Or one year I wanted to look at how Mariah Bell and Gracie looked at sectionals when they were...
Or how have Mariah Bell's PCS changed from Skate America to Nationals to Worlds? Yeah.
This software allows you to do all of that. You could look up every triple loop with +3 GOE since the beginning of time. You could look up every triple loop that a novice lady has done this season. You know, when they're picking the Junior Grand Prix, which we did terribly last season, and we picked terribly, once again, like, this allows people to do that. And they wanted to do this as a coaching tool. And they said, you know, to charge like $250 to allow someone to...
Yeah.
And if you're going to pay $50,000 to go to Skate 7K for a juvenile lady, you are going to probably want to pay $250 as a parent to see what all their competitors are doing. You're going to want to know, is this a good investment of my time, or is the coach lying to me? Does my daughter have potential? And that's what you kind of start to look at. And since there's a terrible search functionality on Ice Network, the stream doesn't work 90% of the time. And when Ann Jensen says something to them on Twitter, Ice Network then blocks her. So that's how you respond to your base? Like, if someone has an issue with the stream and complains, you block them?
Right.
And then we wonder why no one watches Skate. Like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
But this was amazing. You could search by PCS. You could search by skater and follow all of this. You could see all of, like you were saying, what step sequence got this, you know,
You could
GOE.
practice judging. You could flip.
At the skating clubs.
Yes.
That was also very interesting.
Jonathan, our favorite club from Arizona, the Coyote Girls. I want to go use that to look them up.
We didn't need to search it. We knew.
And then how about, like, you can flip to study technique. You can actually mirror image the video to make Ashley Wagner's, because she turns the opposite way. If you want to look at her technique compared to someone else's, you could then flip it so that she jumped in the clockwise manner or the counterclockwise manner. That's what you're able to do. And you could also bookmark the programs.
How could you? I mean, you could spend hours on this searching everything with the video clips, with the judging history. It was incredible. In
typical USFS fashion, I think Mitch and Justin were actually interested in this, and they brought it to David Wraith, and then they brought it to the Deloitte consultant, you know, and then they brought it to and they were like, wait, you could use all the Ice Network video? Yeah, it was like news to them that you could rip that video when people rip it on YouTube all the time. And then, of course, they didn't move on it and people moved on. You know, like, this is just a perfect example of things that people actually want to actually make skating user-friendly.
Right.
And then they don't jump on it. It was incredible. I
really enjoyed. You sent me the documentary.
Yeah.
About Sarah and Suzanne.
Did you watch it?
I watched it today, and it was incredible. And I want to be like, what? Well, she retired from Georgia. What's she doing now? Can she come?
Are you a Suzanne Yochlin fan?
Yeah, I mean, she seemed I probably would have worked better in Alabama.
I'm about to tell you something that's going to make a lot of sense to you.
Okay.
When I was a young gay, long before I ever came out, Suzanne Yochlin was like crazy about marketing. Like, she didn't just want 10,000 people in the fans, she wanted everyone around the country to know them.
Incredible what they did, yeah.
So, she used to have a Q&A on her website. I used to write her really detailed questions and be like, why is this person starting off the lineup? Because I don't feel that they're psychologically ready. You know, this person is far steadier. She started emailing me, like, personal responses to, like, the things when I was, like, 15. So much about what I know about, like, the competitive mindset of sport came. When I was studying abroad, I was telling her, like, I really think that you need to shift your lineup, Suzanne. And then we would be, like, emailing back and forth. And then that's how I got to know her and, like, started blogging, because we would have blunt conversations about things. And she'd be like, this girl just joined a sorority, and I don't think she's invested, and she's falling off the beam, and she's checked out, and we need to improve the team chemistry. Do you know that Suzanne, that they went from being the badasses of gymnastics, that then her idea was that she didn't think that the team was cohesive enough in 2003, 2004. So she decided to not go for necessarily the top talents, but then she went for, like, the nice Christian girls who could all be religious and get along with each other, and then focus on team chemistry. And they won 5 in a row. Jonathan, like, and, like, no one even batted an eyelash when Suzanne did this, because
we know she knows what she's doing. Yeah.
We need her in skating. Do you realize that she's like, so she is, like, together with a married man who can't get divorced, but they call each other, like, whatever. It's just, like, it's a situation, okay? Like, it's known. I'm not, like, it's in articles and everything.
Sarah would never have done that. Okay.
No, she just would have badmouthed. Suzanne to all of the recruits. But publicly, she would just say,
Okay.
Those two women, like, they're both retired and, like, not doing much. You know that they would whip Ashley Wagner and Gracie into gear in, like, 5 seconds.
It's a real thing, and I was listening very closely because I was like, how does this work? They entered a situation much more dire than the USFS is in now.
Yes.
And that they made something out of nothing, and they always believed in it. And now you can tell me if this was just how they slanted it in the video or if you found this in real life. It wasn't actually about them.
No.
It was about
Well, it became about following the team, and then they were like the head of the team.
yeah.
So
I mean, of course,
yeah.
that comes with that, but they didn't have a vision of glory for themselves. They had a vision of glory of filling stadiums and
Yeah.
winning the competitions and becoming relevant. And it was
And
about
each one got paid very well as a result. Newsflash, skating, if you did that, you would get paid more. So
there are benefits to it. Like, and then was it Sarah's idea to do just the competition between the two schools as like
Yeah.
an all-out like publicity, blah blah
yes.
blah. And they were saying they were going to the papers, they were going here. We have skating now that's like, Dave, please don't show slow-mos of the girls that under rotate. Or we have
Hello,
someone,
why aren't we doing us against Japan?
yeah, or everyone vilifying any reporter that was like, yeah, we didn't do so well at Worlds. And they're like, that's terrible. I was like, that's the only person who's written about skating.
Yeah.
You know, when you're saying you contacted Suzanne with all these questions,
Yes.
if that was in skating, they just would have blocked you
Yeah.
instead of engaging in an interesting conversation that
Yeah.
ultimately led someone to become a factor in the sport, you know?
Yes. You know,
Sorry.
it's very interesting. You know, what was Suzanne's favorite, what was your favorite quote? Losers make excuses, winners make adjustments.
That got
That
trouble too. That got her in trouble.
and wasn't it accurate, Jonathan?
Yep.
Didn't you?
It was accurate.
Mhm.
Although I would have been pissed if I went to an uneven bar and it was a different size.
Yes. Did you think that she did tamper with those bars? I've never decided that. I'm like, her equipment guy might have done it for her, so she didn't even have to think about doing it. I think the culture was so heated.
It's also, one has to take these kinds of documentaries in with a grain of salt.
Oh, no,
because,
that was a real situation. Like,
no, that was a real situation, but I mean,
Yeah.
like, even when we watched the 30 for 30 on, like, Katarina Witt and the stuff and stuff, like, the way they kind of gloss over certain aspects that were kind of important about the actual sport itself. It was, so I'm like, I realize I'm not getting the full story here, but I was just completely in awe of what they did for collegiate gymnastics, and
so
we
you're
need
a Sarah Patterson fan?
a what?
You're a Sarah Patterson fan?
Yeah, I was kind of, because you know what, and it's
Alabama was always considered to be very lame, and then Georgia was like too edgy.
Here.
And of course, I was a Georgia fan. We didn't.
Well, that's much more fun as a fan. I think as a competitor, I would have responded better to the Alabama environment. It's
and
not.
they did this in Utah. So Utah had a big following. And he was the one that like first started, and then they did it in the South. And then Val came in, and she was like, "Well, I follow John Wooden, and we're bigger than winning," And then like all these people did branding, and it was a complete reality show. I mean,
Now, skating is much more individualistic in many ways. Like, you're not
well,
dealing
then
with
we
so
need
much-
to change that.
No. Yeah.
What did
I-
Marta Caroli say? We needed an approach that was more team-oriented. She would tell you that the team gold medal is the most important. Okay, Jonathan? And that the U.S. needs to win the team event. We need to get it done. Meryl and Charlie skate very good for the first place. And we need to figure out a way to win. This is not that hard, okay?
We need someone to just come in and just clean house and be modern.
Don't you think President Trump would want to win the Olympics? Like, don't you think he'd want to dominate and, be like, yes, America for Trump, #1? Like, I don't think it would be that hard to do. To, stroke his ego. I mean, Trump Tower could, sponsor skating. We could, he would love it. Are you kidding?
More Sprite Zero.
I mean, come on, just work his ego in, Ivanka could design the outfits for all the team, and he'd be like, there's my beautiful daughter Ivanka, look at her, outlining all the Olympic champions. I mean, it would be...
Well, Melania did wear that beautiful Ralph Lauren thing for the inauguration. But again, you know what? Let's go back to that. Let's go back to Kane and LeDuc. Let's go back to Alexa and Chris. What are you wearing? What are you wearing?
What are you wearing, and what the F is Scott Brown having you skate to, and why are you going to Scott Brown? Clearly that doesn't win. That gets you to a certain level, and then it's time to say thank you for all you have done.
We're going to graduate now.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think,
Delilah, thank you for that twist.
Yep. Ciao.
No thank you for that Chaplin program. You have to
Well, and the thing is, Vera Wang, where is she? Can she please come back?
She picks the skaters. I mean, Vera Wang is probably going to want to design for Marin Honda. She's not going to want to design for the American girl who's like making excuses and not seizing the opportunity.
Yeah, because I went back and looked at some of.
Do you know what Suzanne told us about winning, Jonathan?
What?
That you need to see it, you need to say it, and we
do it.
Yeah,
right.
And it was like see it, say it, do it. And do you know what losing is? It's partial success. Like, she could twist anything, okay? Like, it is amazing, all right? Like, this is...
That's the thing also in a lot of these skater interviews. You just want to say, well, don't tell me, just show me.
Yes.
Just do it, and then I'll believe the hype, you know?
I mean, Suzanne would love Ashley Wagner. I mean, she would be working her, like...
And you know what? Ashley's a smart girl. She's a tough competitor. Like, there are such amazing qualities that she probably needs somebody like that to bring it out. You know,
Suzanne, like, not the best gymnastics coach, even. Like, she never produced an elite, but she knew that you had to be in shape, and that you need to be aggressive, and that you need to foster competition, and that you need to win. You know, they said, how do you fill supports? You recruit talent, you market, and you win. And that's how that happens. And you have to have those three components. So we have, like, some talent, but obviously we need more coaching talent, so that's what we need to recruit.
I think that's where the issue lies. And
we need
a lot
marketing. That's another issue.
Our great coaches are of a generation that are too old now, you know?
In HR, they call it succession planning. So that when Frank Carroll, John Nix, the Scott Folds retire, who's below them to be... And unfortunately... I was like debating with Lynn, and I was saying, like, no, in the U.S., a lot of the talent kind of left. And she's like, well, you know, they wanted other opportunities. Well, you have to make skating attractive to keep the biggest talents there. You know, the people on the international committee are like John Coughlin, but he was like in the 8th place. Like, where's Evan Lysacek to decide with Merrill, with someone else, like, what does it take to win? You know, like, which skaters are we going to give assignments to? Because then we have all these committees with all this politics, and that's how we get, like...
What's pomp and circumstance and...
Yeah. That's how we get... You know, that's why Brady Tennell and Star Andrews are sent to Junior Worlds when maybe Tessa Hong didn't beat Brady Tennell, but she's the one that has more talent for the future. So this is... this is what you have to do, and it's... Oh, Jonathan, we're going to keep going on this conversation all day, but what was your moment of the week?
Oh, gosh. I'm going to say the French. The French, because, you know, I just adore them as people and aesthetic human beings. And their skating is really fun to me. And when he got off the ice, or when she got off the ice, she was like, that was hard. She's like, I turned to Morgan, she's like, let's not do the last lift. And he was like, no, we have to. That was like a pretty funny moment to me because they're tired too. But the fact that she was like, I told him like skip the lift, and he was like, no, we'll do it. So I think that's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I have to think that my moment was really the exhibition and the finale, and you know, Shoma Uno, and then Hanyu, and then Medvedeva falling, and like Hanyu not even believing that it happened.
Hilarious. I mean, obviously she's amazing. And she's a smart girl. She knew what she was doing with that Sailor Moon. Mm-hmm. And Shoma, he knows how to move out there on his own.
Yeah. Shoma Uno is becoming like a man out there. I mean, did you see how he attacked that squat? He was like, I'm a fan. Well, as always, we want to remind you to hold an edge, look sexy, and seize the opportunity like Ready and Nova. Bye, guys.